Hi, welcome to Hot Licks video. My name is Emily Remler, and we're going to be working on bebop and swing, basically the era of after the 40s. In the 50s and 60s, Wes Montgomery, Joe Pass, Pat Martino, that type of thing. These are the people that influenced me, and I'm going to give you what I got from them. And one of the most important things to emphasize is rhythm. And I've been teaching 10 years myself, and I also emphasize that with my students, that rhythm is the most important thing. It must swing. Now, you can play a million notes and you can play a million chords, but unless it's in the groove and unless it feels good, it's not going to make it. So you have to learn how to swing properly. And that is the thing, that you have to move your body. If you might have noticed, I was moving my neck, my left foot, it taps on 2 and 4, which is in sync with the accent of the hi-hat. And that way I feel the swing going through my body. I'll just play the melody one more time. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. You can do that with me. The chords will be diagrammed. You can feel that going through your body. Move a part of your body as you're doing that. And as I teach my students to play along with the metronome so they can actually get as close to perfection as they can. A metronome is perfection. Of course, none of us are going to reach perfection, but you can get pretty damn near close if you use the metronome on 2 and 4. Now, most people, classical musicians, and if you're playing Latin music, things like that, the metronome is on steady 1, 2, 3, 4 of the beats. However, if you switch this around and put the metronome clicks on 2 and 4, then you'll get the accent of the hi-hat cymbal as if you were playing with a jazz drummer. So I'm going to put the metronome on 2 and 4. I'm going to play a B-flat blues scale for you also. And I'm going to play it with the metronome on 2 and 4. First, I have to show you how you do this. For some people, it takes longer time than others. You have to put the metronome on a very low number. I've got the metronome now on 48. Okay, I'm going to put the metronome on. Now, with each click, you have to say out loud, 2, 4, 2, 4, 2, 4, 2, 4. You say 2, 4 until you feel comfortable, and then you'll interject 1. Let's keep saying 2 and 4. 2, 4, 2, 4, 2, 4, 2, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Now, the best thing to do now that you have this scale, if you have the scale down, stop the tape. If you haven't gotten it yet, stop the tape and go down, is to go up and down the scale and try to produce some melodies. Now, I'm going to give you a demonstration of this. Oh, sorry. 2, 4, 2, 4. Say it out loud. 2, 4, 2, 4, 2, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, now that is pretty much in the pocket. I hope you can feel it as well as I can, that is pretty much swinging. An example of not swinging would be rushing the beat. A lot of guitarists, including myself, have had to work for years. The tendency is to rush. Okay, this is an example of a rushed beat. 2, 4, 2, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. See how it doesn't lay as it did before. What you have to do is really feel the beat, just as if it was an electrocardiogram. Each beat would go like this, like that, and you want to be on the crest of the wave. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. See how laid back that is? I could even lay back further. This would be a real laid back. First we say our 2, 4 to get into it. 2, 4, 2, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Things I'm just making up in accordance with that scale we were playing before. And I can't stress enough how important the metronome is. That's how I learned how to play in time. I was 17 years old, or 18 years old. I had graduated from Berkeley, and I could play a lot of notes already. I could play pretty good, but I didn't swing. I had no knowledge of what the groove, where the groove was and where all the fun was. Because that's where the fun is. When you swing, and it doesn't matter what type of music you're playing. You can be playing Latin music, you can be playing funk music. It has to groove. You have to, essentially, be a dancer. So I had to personally move a part of my body, and therefore I suggest my students also move a part of their body. Their neck should be able to make a full revolution, or their shoulder, or their foot, or something. I happen to have a serious left foot that taps on 2 and 4. I've trained it so hard that it taps on the upbeats. 1 and 3 being the strong downbeats, I tap on the upbeats. That's how much I've conditioned myself. But it helps me to do that way. I don't say that you should also do that, but I do recommend strongly to use the metronome on 2 and 4, just so you can be playing with a good drummer, the best drummer there is, perfection. Now, what this is going to do for you, if you play any melody with the metronome on 2 and 4, your time, you'll begin to hear where your flaws are, where you're rushing and dragging, and you'll get more sensitive to where the time is. As I said before, just like an electrocardiogram beat, you'll begin to feel the beats as waves, each one in itself, and you'll begin to feel whether you're on the crest or whether you're almost overlapping. The person who was really in trouble is when they've overlapped and they don't know. I don't even know if I can give an example of this. I don't think I'd want to do that. You have to be just very careful that your 1 is on an upbeat, not on a click. Let's try this again. Now let's take a melody like Summertime. First of all, we get into our 2 and 4 metronome again. 2, 4, say it with me. 4, 2, 4, 2, 4, 2, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. was I played totally independently the song Summertime in a question-answer form. It's very interesting where this form comes from. Is actually from what I believe is from Africa, where the tribes, they'd be going to get water, and they'd say, call to each other, and the other ones would answer back. So it's a question-answer form of playing. And this is, a lot of Wes Montgomery's music is question-answer form. So here's my melody, and then I answer myself, where there's room to put the chords. I had played the melody, I answered myself with the chords, and I'm a totally independent musician here. I developed this particular chord solo so I could show off at music stores, because I didn't want to go into Manny's on 48th Street and just play little parts of Led Zeppelin songs and things like that. I wanted to be able to play a full tune all by myself in rhythm all the way through. And I wanted to be able to play the chords and the melody together. In other words, when they asked me, do you play lead or rhythm, I wanted to be able to say, I play both. And it's true. Now I play lead and rhythm and bass at the same time. And that's a total jazz musician, jazz guitarist should be able to do. You should be able to be totally self-sufficient without the band behind you. And there's a whole lot of my students come in with, yeah, but when I'm with the band, it sounds so much better. What I tell them is, let me hear you play this tune all the way through in exact time by yourself. And let me hear you take a solo, and let me hear the chord changes behind it. Now, there's a way I do this for the B-flat blues, which I'm going to go back to the B-flat blues now and refer to that, is using the guide tones. The guide tones are the most important notes of the chords. They're the third or the seventh of the chord. The third or the seventh determine whether the chord is a major, minor, or a dominant chord. Now, I'll play for you by ear. You can hear this by ear what the guide tone is. I'm going to play a set of chord progressions. We don't even have to worry about what chords I'm playing. I want you to be able to hear what notes, what's really going on in these chords, what the guide tone line is. Now, I hope you're hearing. I'll do it again. Okay, between D minor, which this chord is, D minor 9, and G7 13, what's really happening is a C moving down to a B. Okay? It's not all sorts of complicated things. It's not all sorts of heavy scales to worry about. All you do is just try to emphasize that movement. Identify that change. Change? Okay. Here's another set of chords. Now what's really happening in these chords is this. 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4. That's what's really going on. Those are the guide tones. That's what your ear hears. That's essentially the meat of the chord. Not the root, not the fifth, because that's not going to tell you whether the chord is major or minor. What just happened was I was taking a D major 7 chord, moving down to D minor 7, and you heard the third moving down, going down to C major, and you hear now again the third moving down to C minor. So major and minor. So when you're taking an improvisational solo over it, the way to make that change, quote unquote, make that change, in other words, without relying on anybody to play the chords behind you, you have to play those notes, play that situation. Play the third moving down to the flat third. Try that by yourself. Try hearing the chords and making melodies to emphasize what's happening between those changes. Now, every song in this world has a guide tone line. Every song in this world has a guide tone line. The guide tones, as we said before, are the most important notes of the chord, the third or the seventh. That's because, again, it established whether it's major, minor, or dominant. And the guide tone line is the smoothest possible connecting line through a set of chords. So our B-flat blues that I started with, which is an internationally accepted B-flat blues, it's different from your 1-4-5 thing. It's not a rock blues. Jazz blues goes through a series of detours and approaches, a whole lot more than rock does. Rock, 1-4-5. Of course, that's very simple rock. But jazz will do a lot of walk downs and approaches instead of that. Those are all turnarounds. Okay, I'm going to play that blues again. I'd like you to be able to play this with me now. I'm going to put the metronome on. We're going to get into it in 2 and 4. That's pretty fast. I'm going to turn it down a little lower. I'm putting it down now on 44. Now, I'm going to do a very simple type of comping. I noticed myself, I noticed myself that when I made my rhythm tapes, because basically the way I learned to play was by making rhythm tapes and jamming along with them. So it's sort of strange because that's the way I learned how to play. I would make, when I make a record, I make rhythm tapes of every single song with the metronome so I can still check that I'm okay, that I'm right. And I lay down the rhythm tracks about 5 minutes per tune, and I jam over it. And if I can't do a particular lick, I stop the tape recorder, do the lick 15, 20 times, and then I resume playing over it until I'm comfortable over it. That's the way I practice. It's very uncomplicated. Now, there are a lot of things that I have thought of, sat and intellectually thought of, and we'll get to a few of those. The guide tones being one of them, actual thinking of the guide tones. And what I will do is we're going to write down this diagram and have the guide tone line written out for you. The smoothest possible movement between the chords. And what I'm going to ask you to do is to be able to play the guide tone line over your own rhythm track of B-flat blues. In other words, tape yourself, record yourself playing a B-flat blues with the metronome on 2 and 4. That's going to be hard enough as it is. For some people, it takes a whole month to get into that 2 and 4 thing. Really feel the swing through your body, move your body, and lay down about a 5-minute rhythm track of a B-flat blues. Okay. After that, you're going to play the guide tone line that's going to be written in music or tablature, whatever the case may be, which are the connecting notes, which are the most descriptive notes of the chord. here's a guide tune. Here are both of the guide tones of a blues. All I need is 2 notes to play a blues. Listen to this. Those are the guide tones. That's the meat of the blues. So what you have to do is to be able to make those changes rather than just play blues scale over it. To be able to make all those chord changes, which, as I said, are different than the 1-4-5 because they have a lot of approaches. There's 2-5-1s. 2-5 in the key of B flat would be C minor 7 to F7. There's the turnaround at the end. B flat 7-13, G7 to sharp 9, G7 sharp 9, C minor 7 to F7 sharp 9, and there's an approach to the 4 chord. On the 5th measure, we have a 4 chord. As with all blues, we have a 4 chord. We have an approach to the 4 chord. Here's our approach. That was a 2-5 approach to the 4 chord. Okay, so instead of just rattling out the chords as in rock, we're approaching, we're tension releasing, we're taking detours and doing a lot of approaching and sort of delayed resolutions and things like that. That's what jazz is about. Okay, so putting the metronome on, I'd like you to play this with me. These chord progressions. And we're going to do a very basic rhythm. Actually, it might sound sort of corny to you. It's the Charleston rhythm, which is a dotted quarter eighth rhythm. But it's one of the first ones to learn, and nothing is corny if it swings. There's nothing more corny than something that doesn't swing and goes heliocopter, 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 you know, that type of thing. We want to swing. We want to get into it. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Keep going. Okay, so you're going to lay down that in a rhythm track, about a 5-minute rhythm track, and then play your guide tone line over it. Now, here's your guide tone line. Let's see if you can hear the blues just with the guide tone line. It's a very boring line because it's all half notes, whole notes and half notes. Half notes being the measures where there's 2 chords per measure, and the whole notes being, of course, the measures where there's 1 chord. Here's your guide tone line. I'm going to play it in octaves. 1, 2. Oh, let's get into our 2-4 in the way we usually do it. 2, 4. Say with me. 2, 4, 2, 4, 2, 4, 2, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. Okay, now that we've done that, and you can hear that, how it goes over the chords. It has to go over the chords because it's the most perfect notes of the chords. It's the best notes of each chord. So therefore, we can't go wrong. Now, what I give to my students in private lessons and what I'm giving to you now as an assignment to do, and what I'll show you myself, is to play the guide tone on the first beat of every measure, and then you can go from there to Mars and back, as long as you hit the next guide tone on the next measure. Now, when there's two chords per measure, you've got to make both guide tones, so there's not a whole lot of room to go to Mars and back. But I'm really serious. You can go to Mars and back. I'd prefer you wouldn't go to Mars and back. I'd prefer you'd use the scale that we did before. For your intervening in between the guide tone line. And you'll notice, by the way, that everything has been in the middle of the guitar. Don't worry too much about positioning, but do things that are natural to that position. I'll do that scale one more time. Notice how slow and careful I practice it. Howard Roberts once told me something terrifying. He says, if you practice fast and make mistakes, you're practicing making mistakes. I mean, that's terrifying. So let's picture you had a guy in the apartment next to you. You lived in New York like me, and you can hear everything. Let's picture you heard him practicing like this. Like that type of stuff. Or if you heard him doing this. Play with conviction, play loud. Now I'm not picking so hard, I'm pressing with my left hand. Okay, now we're going to go back to the guide tone solo. Now I'm going to take a solo with the metronome on 2 and 4, always. And I'm going to play a guide tone, the guide tone specified on the first beat. I'm going to stray away a little, do a little melody, but I'm going to come down on the next guide tone right on beat 1. Not on the and of 4, not on the and of 1, not on the off beats, but right on beat 1 of each measure. And as I said before, when there's 2 chords per measure, you've got to make both guide tones, so there's not a whole lot of time. Here we go. The guide tone line will be shown to you on the screen, and I'm going to hopefully make it myself. It's a hard thing to do. What this does is force you to make the changes, each change. You see, instead of avoiding the areas where you can't hear naturally, get down and fix those areas up. You know what I'm saying? I mean, don't have any void areas. Stop half-stepping. Because I used to half-step everything. Just avoid those chords. These chords, listen. Sure, you can do this. You can do that if you want. But wouldn't it be nice to make all those changes happen? Okay? Make all those changes happen independent of the pianist, of the other guitarist, of the bass, to be able to hear all those changes. Now, I hope you'll be able to hear these changes. I'm going to play the guide tone on the first beat, I'm going to play a little melody that I'm going to just make up spontaneously in between. It doesn't have to be a masterpiece or anything. But the important thing is that I'm going to come down on the guide tone on the next beat. And the other important thing is to also be in sync with the metronome. And as I said, some of you will have trouble with the metronome staying in sync with that metronome. Remember that your click is on the upbeat, that your one is between the clicks. So let's get back into our one again. And I'm going to play my guide tone. I'm going to take a solo now, playing the guide tones on every first beat. And as I said before, first and third beat when the case is 2 chords per measure. Here we go. The tune Tenor Madness, as a matter of fact, does that naturally. Some of you might be able to check that tune out. I don't believe it's in the real book, but it's a pretty much well-known tune. Here we go. Let's get into 2 and 4 together. 2, 4, 2, 4, 2, 4, 2, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. I strayed away from the guide tone there at the last. But you get the picture. It forces you to be able to make the changes. It forces you to make the changes by playing the meat of each chord connecting to the meat of the next chord. There's no way you can get off track. I mean, try to avoid playing the wrong notes in between the guide tones. But try this yourself. You're going to lay down a rhythm track, 5 to 10 minutes. The longer the better, you know. This is supposed to be fun, by the way, you guys. This is supposed to be fun. The way I practice is with me and my tape recorder. I've worn out so many tape recorders. All I do is practice with the tape recorder. That's how I play. That's how I've learned how to play. I lay down the track with the metronome, make sure I'm cool with the metronome. And the deal with the metronome is after you work with the metronome for a while, your time gets so much better that you can hear when you're rushing and when you're dragging. And you can also hear when the rest of the guys or gals in the band are rushing or dragging. So what it makes you is you become a real pain in the neck because your time really gets so good that you can really feel confident about your time. And it changed my whole life, really, because after that teacher told me I had bad time when I was 18 years old, I went home and cried about it, and then I got the metronome and started working on it. And what happened is that now I have the likes of Pat Martino, Joe Pass, Pat Metheny telling me that I have good time, you know, and that's, what else do I have to work for? I mean, the approval of these great giants tell me that. So this is the way I've done it, and I hold no secrets back. Work with the metronome. Work with the metronome. Make sure you're in the pocket, and you'll feel it. And when it starts to swing, you get a good feeling in your stomach. You know, it's a real good feeling in your stomach. It should swing. It should be loose. It should be, you know, shouldn't be tense. Something should be moving. You should be dancing when you're playing. You know, and then also on another note, Latin should also be swinging. For instance, here's a progression, and this swings also. swung too. And that wasn't bebop, that wasn't swing at all. That was Latin. But it swung, it moved. Michael Jackson swings, funk swings. Everything must swing and not be stiff. Now, I guess classical music swings in its own way. I don't play classical guitar, but it's pretty much a little more rigid. All I know is that with Latin jazz, bossa nova jazz, which I had the privilege of playing with Astrid Gilberto for 4 years and studying bossa nova music, swings like hell. I mean, that's where it's at. It feels good. It's like you're dancing. You're dancing with your instrument. Now, it seems like all it is out there is licks and chords and notes and all that type of thing. But what I'm trying to stress is rhythm, time, swing, feel good, have fun, dance with your instrument, okay? Let's play that lick again. I made it up. It's no big deal. Maybe I'll put it on my next record. It's just a groove. Now, octaves, the West Montgomery style of octaves. I personally keep my pinky always the same. I don't switch fingers. Maybe this is because I have small hands, being a female, I don't know. But the first thing you do with octaves is to try to just go up fourths. You'll notice some of them are 2 frets apart, some of them are 3 frets apart. Let's do that again. Maybe the second step would be now to make a scale. Anything into swing. Now, you'll notice I usually put my pick in my mouth. I'm trying not to do it today so I can look halfway decent. But I have my pick between my 2 fingers and I'm playing with my thumb because I feel the fleshy sound is more warm. Now, don't worry too much about muffling the inner strings when you're playing the octaves. Don't worry too much about that. That should happen naturally, really. For instance, you see there is an inner string. It gets muffled naturally. Put your hand at a right angle. And I always tell my students, forget this. You know, maybe Jimi Hendrix, his hands were so big that he could do that. But if you're playing like this, you're cutting down on all your power. Because if you put your thumb like this, I guess this is classical technique in a way, you can have all your forearm. And I know, I can tell you, as a female, I've had to build up I got a serious bicep in this left arm because I've had to build up muscles. I've had to build up these muscles. When you play with your thumb in the middle of the back of the guitar, especially with octaves, you've got to build up a lot of muscles and a lot of strength. Then you've got your whole forearm behind you. Okay. Let's take that melody again. Now, in this case, the metronome would be on 1 and 3. See how I'm tapping my foot on 1 and 3? Let's find a good tone for it. All right, that sounds pretty good. Because this is not, the accent of the drummer would not be on 2 and 4. This is Latin now. But it's got to swing also. It's got to feel good too. It's got to feel good, guys. It's not so serious. Don't worry about the competition out there. Just have a good time, man. Like when you were 15 and you picked it up and you played in your living room. Keep that up. Egberto Gismonti told me, who is one of my favorite musicians, he says, it can't be work. Don't make it work for you. It's got to be fun. It's still got to be fun. When I sit down, the way I practice, I play along with my tape recorder. I go out into trance land. You know, that's how I practice. no heavy scales, no heavy patterns. I make up melodies. Maybe I'll play a couple of scales to warm up, but I'll play licks. I'll just play music, just fool around. Here we go. Let's mix up something. I just got an idea. Let's turn this now into swing. Okay. If we were going to turn this into swing now, our clicks would be 2 and 4 now. Let's try to get into that. 2, 4. That's pretty fast now. 4, 2, 4, 2, 4, 2, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Whoa, I almost missed it. So you see the difference. Okay, let's bring it back now to 1 and 3. 1, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, now you'll notice also that I'm also interchanging my pick and my thumb. I never, ever, ever worry about my right hand. I think there's altogether too much worrying about picking and how to pick and individual how what's his name picks and how what's his name picks. I drove myself crazy last month. I've been playing with Larry Coryell for the past year, and he uses his whole forearm. I think John McLaughlin does the same thing. Now, I don't. I rest my pinky, and always have, and I play with my wrist, I suppose. And I had this thing in my head, I'll never get as fast as Larry, or something like that, if I don't change my whole picking technique. So for 3 days I was miserable trying to change my whole picking style. It didn't do a damn thing. Everyone's got their individual style. Just get the notes out clear. Okay. Now, I also want to talk something about transcriptions. They've compared me to Wes Montgomery because I transcribed a few Wes Montgomery melodies, not 5 choruses, maybe 4 or 5 licks. Okay. Now, you can either wait for them to come out 5 years later in a moment of ecstasy, or you can concentrate on it now, get it down, and develop it as part of your own vocabulary. See, your brain is a computer. If I put a melody in, it should variate it 500 times if I'm a creative musician. You know, if I believe I have the creative musician force in me, and I'm sure everyone does that is listening to this tape. So when you copy somebody's lick, try to make it part of your repertoire and then variate it as many times as you possibly can. Okay. For instance, when I first copied Pat Martino's way of playing over, let's say, A minor. I think that's probably it. But I've done it so much now that I start it now like Pat did, and then I'll end it up some other way. That's all over A minor to D7. That's what I am working on fourths now, which is the hardest. So my suggestion is about that also, transcriptions. Don't do 5 choruses of giant steps. Do 8 bars of something and incorporate it in your playing. For instance, I don't want to get religious about the deal, but if you read the Bible, if you can just take one concept and apply it to your life, you know, like do unto others as, you know, that the golden rule, you know, one concept is enough for your whole life. You can't read a whole chapter, you know, a whole 12 pages of the Bible and apply it to your life at once. That's the same thing with this. You can't take a whole Wes Montgomery or Pat Martino solo and all of a sudden apply it now to your own vocabulary. Take the essence, take the one lick that you really like, melody, lick, whatever you want to call it, because it's going to come out anyway. And it's nothing that, we always play something we've heard before. Nothing is ever new. Maybe you played it, you heard it when you're 3 years old. It comes out in a moment of improvisation. But no one improvises 100% of the time. Basically what I've got down is maybe 25 or 30 licks in certain minor keys, especially because I play a lot of minor. I'm not going to get into that in this videotape. This is a whole other lesson then. But to be able to have a lot of things to fall back on when you're not spilling out your guts with improvisation. So that's where it goes back to transcribing. Transcribe a little bit of somebody, and then comes A minor, and apply it, and then use it. Make it part of your own repertoire. Make it your own lick. Don't imitate someone exactly. Make it your own vocabulary. Take their essence, and then you turn it into your individual thing. Don't look sideways. Don't look at the competition. Don't look for the electronics to get your sound. Express yourself. Express your feelings from the very beginning. Get into the rhythm. Get into the dance of the thing. Dance while you're playing. Have fun while you're playing. Because that's where it's all about. It's all about having fun. It's not about work. It's not about competition. You only live once. Music is to be joyous and free and express your emotions and feelings. And that's what it's about. Thank you very much. Goodbye.